Deepika Tidke, Assistant Professor at MBBS Deputy School, College of Engineering, Nashik. In previous video, we see evaluation of interfaces and evaluation techniques. What are the different approaches of evaluations, like cognitive walkthrough, heuristic evaluation, etc. The next part is, what is empirical methods? What are the different methods of empiricals? Empirical methods, observation methods and query languages. So, empirical methods, methods are participants, then variables, hypothesis. These are the empirical methods. Any experiment has the same basic form. The evaluator chooses a hypothesis test which can be determined by measuring some attributes of participant behavior. A number of experimental conditions are considered which differ only in the values of certain control variables. So, empirical methods are participants, variables. Third one is hypothesis, experimental design, statistical measures, and studies of group of users. Participant. The choice of participant is vital to the success of an experiment. In evaluation experiment, participants should be chosen to match the expected user population as closely as possible. Variable method is experimenter manipulate and measure variables under controlled conditions in order to test the hypothesis. Two types of variables, manipulated and measured. Hypothesis. A hypothesis is a prediction of outcome of experiment. It is a frame in terms of independent and dependent variables, setting that a variation in the independent variable will cause a difference in the dependent variable. The aim of the experiment is to show this prediction is correct. Experimental design. In order to produce a reliable and generalizable result, an experiment must be carefully designed. Statistical measures. The first two rules of statistical analysis are to look and to save the data. It is easy to carry out statistical tests blindly when a glance at a graph, histogram, or table of results would be more instructive. Next is observational technique. Observational technique, a popular way to gather information about the actual of a system, is to observe user interacting with it. Simple observation is sufficient to determine how well the system meets the user requirements, since it does not always give insight into their decision processes or attitude. If observation is being carried out in their place of work, they may be observed going about their normal duties. Example, describing what he believes is happening, why he takes an action, and what he is trying to do. Protocol analysis method for recording user actions include the following. Paper and pencil, this is a primitive but cheap and allows the analysis to note interpretation and external events as they occur. It is hard to get detailed information as it is limited by the analyst writing speed. Observational techniques has some techniques. First is think aloud and cooperative evaluation. The process is less constrained. The user is encouraged to criticize the system. The evaluator can clarify points of confusion. Second one is protocol analysis. Protocol analysis, paper and pencil, this is a primitive. Then audio video records, computer login, user notebook. Audio recording, this is useful if the user is actively thinking aloud. However, it may be difficult to record sufficient information to identify exact action in late analysis, and it can be difficult to match an audio recording too. Third one is automatic protocol analysis tools. Analyzing protocol, whether video, audio, or system logs, is time consuming. The fourth technique is pass, task, walk through, that were performed but little knowledge as to why, even where the participant has been encouraged to think aloud through the task. The information may be at the wrong level. So these are the observational technique, think aloud and cooperative evaluation, protocol analysis, automatic protocol analysis tools, and past task walkthrough. Next technique is query techniques. Query techniques can be useful in detail of the user's view of the system. There are two main types of query techniques. First one is interviews and second one is questionnaires. First technique is interviews. Interviewing user about their experience with an interactive system provides a direct and structured way of the gathering information. Query techniques can be useful in detail of the user's view of a system. They embody the philosophy that states that the best way to find out how a system meets user requirement is to ask the user. They can be used in evaluation and more widely to collect information about user requirement and task. Evaluation through monitoring and psychological responses. One of the problems with the most evaluation technique is that we are relying on observation and the user telling us what they are doing, how they are feeling. What if we were able to measure these things directly? Interest has grown recently in the use of what is sometimes called objective usability. Testing ways of monitoring psychological aspects of computer use. Potentially, this will allow us not only to see more clearly exactly what users do when they interact with the computer, but also to measure how they feel. So this is the query techniques. Eye tracking for usability evaluation. Modern system varies use a head-mounted camera to monitor the eye. But most sophisticated do not involve any contact between the equipment and the participant with the camera and light sources mounted in the desk units. Next topic is choosing an evaluation method. This is also an important topic. There are a number of factors that should be taken into account when selecting evaluation technique. We see the range of techniques is available for evaluating an interactive system at all stages in the design process. There are some factors distinguishing evaluation techniques. We can identify at least 8 factors that distinguish different evaluation techniques and therefore help us to make an appropriate choice. They are we can identify first factor is the stage in the cycle at which the evaluation carried out. Second is the style of evaluation. Third is the level of subjectivity of the technique. Next is the type of measures provided. the information provided, and next, the immediacy of a response, the level of interference implied, the resources required. So these are the factor distinguishing evaluation technique, like the stage in the cycle at which the evaluation is carried out, style of evaluations, information provider, resources required. Choosing evaluation method also depends on design versus implementation, laboratory versus field studies, subjective versus objective, quantitative versus qualitative measures. So, design versus implementation is the first factor to affect our choice of evaluation method. Is a stage in a design process at which evaluation is required. Second is laboratory and field studies. Laboratory studies allow controlled experimentation while using something of the naturalness of the user's environment. Subjective, objective, the more subjective techniques such as cognitive walkthrough relate to a range to a large extent on the knowledge and expertise of the evaluate. Qualitative and quantitative measures. There are two types, qualitative measures and quantitative measures. So this is important choosing evaluation method used in evaluation. Thank you. So these are the all topics we see, like what are the techniques, what is field studies, what is subjective, objective, then query techniques, then observational techniques. So if you have any query, please email me on deepika@kbtcu.org. Thank you for watching.